Welcome to Diverse Dialogues. Diverse Dialogues is a series of podcasts on a term called dialogue that we want to talk about today. And I want to briefly define what dialogue is. And I want to do it with a polarity, which is monologue. Human beings throughout all of human history have talked to each other monologically. That is, one person talking, then the other person talking, then the other person talking.
So if I got it, throughout history, people have used monologue, one person talking, the other person talking, and that can polarize.
And so we're introducing a new way to talk, which we hope will become as widespread as monologue, called dialogue, in which people talk with each other, without criticizing, listen without judgment, and connect beyond their difference.
So you're really excited about getting a different way to talk into the world called dialogue, where people listen and connect beyond judgment and enjoy difference. If there's difference, learn to enjoy difference.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we have a training institute, and oh wow, we recently found a man to hire. How long ago? 6 months?
A little over a year, that's right.
Okay, a year ago. Well, his name is Jonathan, and we are thrilled you're here. Tell us, what was growing up like for you? Like, where are you from? Oh, and then how did you end up what you ultimately did in your life? Because you are a very successful businessman, and you, I think, quit your job and took ours.
I appreciate the question. It's a pretty colorful path to get here, and I do feel privileged to have this opportunity to work with the two of you and to promote this amazing message.
Yeah.
From the earliest days, I've always been fascinated with learning. And I always knew I wanted to stay attached to learning and helping the light bulb come on, for me, for sure, but for other people too. Right after college, I joined the Navy. I spent about 20 years flying airplanes. And my most meaningful tours were my time as a flight instructor, teaching others how to fly safely, how to fly effectively. Now, from that career, I worked over to finance. And again, the most meaningful part and the most satisfying part of that job was really helping coworkers and clients understand money and understand how resources could actually help them move closer to goals that were important to them. But that was based on the central tenet of learning about them, asking questions, and keeping your ears open. Now, from there, I went on and taught a couple of schools in grad school, and the learning for me continued both as a professor, the things that I was learning and the things that I was hopefully teaching. Things like communication, things like strategic decision-making, and things like organizational culture. And so I've always been fascinated with learning. And while I was placed shoulder deep in a really fun career, I came across this opportunity to potentially take dialogue and share the power of dialogue with as many people as we could across the world. It's an ambitious goal, but those are the kind that really drive the most passionate people, and that's what I hope to be.
So just a brief summary. Early on, you were interested in teaching, learning, and helping other people learn something new. And here you are. How's that?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So I think I've finally put together why you were interested in the particular job of the curriculum and creating the learning materials, because that's old hat for you and a long-term interest. But you also have long-term interest. You also know how to do it. And this was a different kind of material. But I just got it that the learning embedded in the process was familiar to you. That was not your skill to learn, but the new vision and goal. Am I getting that?
Totally correct.
So
Now, Jonathan, if I remember, and we haven't even talked about this, but I believe when you took your job, you had heard of Harville's study of tipping point theory. And Harville has studied tipping point, and I didn't know this, but if enough people in the world do one thing, the rest of global humanity collapses. And so he has said to me, Helen, all we need is 2.4 billion people using dialogue, and the rest of global humanity will become dialogical. And I think that was, you thought that was interesting.
And all very true. You know, these things about mass effect and tipping point. The number sounds like it's fairly exact, 2.45 billion people by the year 2050. That's still 25 years away. And where does 2.45 come from? It's interesting because in 25 years, the world's population is forecast to be 9.8 billion people. 2.45 represents 25% of that population. And so if we can just, I say just, it's a huge task, but if we can actually influence 1/4 of the world's population to become dialogic, to actually adopt safer conversations and these skills and behaviors, then the movement becomes organic enough where it becomes self-sustaining. And enough people see it in other people, and they want to adopt it for themselves. I think it's an amazing goal, and it really what powers our entire team every day.
Wonderful.
So you've been here now for about a year. Tell us about your journey.
Well, every day is a learning experience for me, and most of the learning comes from the exposure with other people. And we promote, we're the exclusive custodian of your safe conversations methodology, and we're doing our best to share safe conversations with both general audience communities and also business audiences, business organizations. And so what we're hoping to do is share the power of slowing things down enough to actually listen to other people in conversation. It sounds fairly intuitive, like, oh, simple. I should just be able to take more time with somebody. But there are definite skills and behaviors that can be learned, adopted, and practiced to actually make this process seem more natural and actually become a part of an organization's culture.
Jonathan, that is so smart. I remember hearing how CEOs of corporations or businesses come to work and another person has resigned. And then they come and then another person has resigned. And why? They're getting paid, but they just resign. Well, it's because of the way the staff in the business talks to each other. And it was really neat. I think you created a Connecting at Work program for corporations to purchase. And
you speak of a trend that a lot of people are now beginning to recognize, and that's the spirit of disengagement in the corporate domain. And what we're seeing is large numbers of employees are first quietly and then more vocally starting to disengage from their jobs and their workplace. And that's the problem that a lot of CEOs now recognize, is keeping and retaining top talent is hard because we are not engaging with these people well enough to keep them motivated and tuned to the expectations on the job and to the mission at hand. So that's a real problem for CEOs. One of the interesting things that we discover as we dig a little deeper here is when we talk about organizational culture. And we say, okay, if the CEO recognizes that our organizational culture is flawed, not enough people feel connected or engaged, something about our culture is missing. The problem is most people recognize organizational culture, the culture that they experience at work, as really one-dimensional. And what culture really is not just what the company wants to establish as our culture, our core values and our mission statement, and all the things we aspire to be. It's certainly that. But as Ed Schein, who taught at Sloan School of Business at MIT for over 60 years, what Ed Schein developed was a 3-tiered model of organizational culture. And this plays right into safe conversation. So if you'll allow, I'll dig a little deeper. So we certainly have culture that exists at an aspirational level, what the company designs and writes for itself. That's the want. But there's also the bit of the culture that is all evidenced in artifact space, what is really felt. And that's the number of people that are actually showing up to work. So work absence rates, work vacation rates, missed days, dress code, the language and the vocabulary and the participation rates are all evidence of what the real culture is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes if the culture is healthy and positive, those things are in alignment.
Mm-hmm.
What the company wants to be and what the evidence suggests the company is are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two levels of culture. The third level, and this is where Safe Conversations ties in, the third level of culture is every employee's underlying beliefs about what the culture is.
Mm.
And often those are invisible and held personally, privately, out of sight.
Mm.
Unless a company is aware that all three of these levels of culture exist, then the culture stands to be out of alignment. We may want to be this wonderful company, but if we're not talking to and if we're not listening to our employees, then our employees don't feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And they certainly don't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you can actually install a culture of safe conversations where people actually feel comfortable to speak up, to share their mind,
Mm-hmm.
to know that people will listen to them and actually understand what they're trying to feel, then those people actually start to believe that the company is every bit of what they're trying to be. And when they feel comfortable, they can explore and even share sometimes those underlying beliefs about the organization's culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we're hoping to do with Safe Conversations in both the work environment and in the general audience environment.
Mm-hmm.
We want to help people feel much more comfortable having these two-way conversations so that they can understand what the organization wants for them, but they can also share what they want to contribute to the organization.
Hmm.
That's a long answer to your short question.
Interesting.
But I think there's a lot of depth.
Interesting. And just to make sure that everyone understands who's listening, Safe Conversations Dialogue is that's the name of our what we sell, and so it teaches the dialogue process.
That's a great point, and it's a little bit of a loaded item here when we ask about, explaining Safe Conversations and adding depth to it, because the two people that created it are now asking a person that they taught this to comment on it. So I'll do my best to kind of elaborate on what you started.
Yeah, because so many relationships are broken, and they're dangerous. I mean, someone will come in and just assert, how it's got to be this way. It's got to be this way. And that's how they feel and that's what they believe. But then everyone else, they might feel differently. But anyway, broken conversations, ruptured relationships. So this is where Safe Conversations are the result of dialogue.
You're exactly right. And a lot of people express that frustration that people are feeling spoken at and talked to in a very vertical presentation in the messaging they're receiving at work. And so Safe Conversations intends to do something different. And so Safe Conversations, if you will, is a very simple set of skills and behaviors that young and old and everyone in between can learn and practice and adopt. And these skills and behaviors help people share and establish and develop psychological safety. Psychological safety is critical because it gives people the sense of comfort to speak up, to share, to take risks for all these very important behaviors in a workspace or in a general environment that are necessary for people to truly feel like someone is paying attention to them and granting them the ability to be themselves. So they don't have to try to become someone else. They can be authentic and they can share what they're thinking and actually act how they want to act.
Absolutely. Being totally authentic. Yeah.
So I mentioned safety one time to a businessman, and he, on that, because of that word, decided not to have Safe Conversations brought to his company. So can you say a little bit more about the significance of safety? Because you were making a very, very clear and very forceful case for psychological safety. Why is that so important? And can we help people understand just that factor?
I'll do my best.
Yeah.
It's a great question. When we talk about psychological safety, sometimes that gets associated with safety in general. And perhaps an executive team or a business in general might fear that safety might rob them of an entrepreneurial spirit or the ability to innovate a product and develop a new market, all liberties that they have to be able to explore.
Yeah.
But creating safety, or more appropriately, psychological safety, is not cornering a business or an executive team into any one way of doing business. What psychological safety is the liberty of each person to feel it's okay to be me, and it's okay to speak up and share my thoughts, even if I think they might be a little suspect to an audience that I'm talking to. If psychological safety exists, then they know my opinion matters. And even if I'm in the minority, they still benefit by hearing a contrary opinion. Now, psychological safety is actually additionally interesting because of work that Google did a little over 10 years ago. Now, everyone has heard of Google. And a little over 10 years ago, Google chartered a study because Google wanted to find out, how do we hire the right people to make the most effective teams? Google does a tremendous amount of hiring, and so this is a relevant question for them. If they hire more of the right people, they'll end up spending less money on hiring and onboarding and training. So there's Google's motivation. How do we hire the right people? So they conducted a 2-year study, and they actually surveyed over 30,000 individuals. So lots of data points went into this study. And they determined the top 5 things that make the most successful teams in a work environment. And so I think a lot of people thought, well, this is obviously an Ivy League education would be necessary, or obviously a very fortunate upbringing, or all these things people tried to hypothesize would be necessary. What Google discovered was the number one factor in the most successful teams was the existence of psychological safety. That put psychological safety on the map.
Yes.
And now everyone recognizes, it would be great to have psychological safety. The real problem is not everybody knows how to build it.
Yes.
And that's where Safe Conversations and the tools that are embedded in these programs come in. Because you can take an organization that has very little or no psychological safety, and you can create it.
Yes.
And you can develop it.
So I want to just pick up on that because because what you got clear, that I would have everybody listening to us get clear, is that safety does not interfere with creativity or entrepreneurship or taking risks or being candid or being honest with each other. Safety has to do, if I'm tracking what you're saying and that Google sort of supports, safety has to do with when I'm in this company and I'm in a room, I can speak up without fearing that somebody's going to devalue me, put me down, criticize, or fire me. That I can be me, that I can be my creativity, I can be entrepreneurial, that I'm safe in this room to contribute to what's going on in the room. Is that a kind of a short way of saying?
I think that's exactly right. And if I heard you, Harville, you were offering the question effect that sometimes you do hear that safety is mistaken. Safety is mistaken for a sense of comfort, or an avoidance of risk, or a place where we can only be nice. And that's probably a popular misconception. When the truth is, in fact, sometimes you have to be not nice, and obviously done in a respectful way. But to honor the authenticity of your thoughts and the other person's thoughts, sometimes you have to be honest in an environment like that. And so every word of what you say, I'd agree with.
Well, that was important to me to talk about that, because I was frankly shocked in the conversation with this businessman that he didn't want safety in his company. And therefore, he was not at all interested in having the conversation further with us about bringing Safe Conversation to. I know that he didn't listen long enough to really understand what we actually do, but I was struck by the fact that safety was a put-down word rather than, and what I know from my experience in working in the field of human relations now for about 50 years, is if it isn't safe, it sucks.
It's well said.
And that's marriages that are not safe they're not happy, they don't thrive, and half of them don't survive. And that's one of the major reasons why relationships are not durable, is that people are not safe. So I think, and with the Google thing and research in psychology and all across the world, is that human beings want to survive. That's the only thing they really want to do, is not die. That's fundamental. We don't walk around talking about that like I'm trying to stay alive right now. But your brain is running a narrative in the background. Is it safe or dangerous here? And if it's safe, then I can relax and be myself, and then be all that I am, and become all that have the potential to. If it's dangerous, I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to create a defense and monitor what I have to do to be safe in this environment. And I'm going to be that. If it interferes with my creativity, so what? If it keeps me, keep my job, I have to keep my job, because that has to do with survival. Have to have resources. So that safety is the most important word in any human institution. Family, marriages, religious organizations, and, by God, in companies as well. So I just wanted to amplify that. So because Safe Conversations is a structured conversation that helps people, by talking through the use of that structure, experience safety with each other, so that then they can move into creativity, collaboration, and creativity. And you might want to elaborate on some of that.
You mentioned something very, very important, and that might have been the experience you had with that one individual who did not choose to interest or or to adopt this pursuit of safety because it was either threatening or uncomfortable for that person. And that's not unusual. In fact, many people in a traditional sense are uncomfortable extending safety throughout the organization, because what it promotes is a kind of flattening of dialogue. Traditional people in power feel very comfortable in this vertical structure where they maintain the power and they deliver it parsimoniously to the organization on a level that they're comfortable with. But what Safe Conversations does is it serves to flatten the overall organizational structure and extend power throughout and encourage the solicitation of input and feedback and contribution. Now, ultimately, we all recognize that makes the organization much stronger.
Yes.
And it makes the workforce much more satisfied. So actually, while it seems a little threatening in a traditional sense of power distribution, it is absolutely the right thing to do to strengthen and improve the organization and promote the retention of your best people.
Exactly.
Which has to be promoted in this era of disengagement that we see now. We spend so much time at work. It is a crying shame that so many people dread the time away from their families and their personal lives that they have to invest in a work culture or in a relationship even that they don't enjoy. And so that is a shame. And I think that's one of the things that motivates us to say, with so much time being spent and devoted to work, let's work to actually enjoy that time. It's a precious gift.
I even saw one reference in an article that some companies were experimenting with play at work. And so that people could tell jokes or have fun or take a little time off and do something funny. And this article did not refer to the fact that play is the primary indicator of health in a relationship, spontaneous play. And so it's like, could companies grasp that? Could churches grasp that? Do parents get that play is a fundamental human need? And when it's there, people thrive. When you can't play, then you are working. You're protecting yourself and defending yourself.
One of the fundamental tools that we have built into our Safe Conversations programs is a tool that we call affirmations. Affirmations is so critical for the things that you just mentioned, Helen, about actually paying somebody an honest compliment and appreciation in the workplace. And something you also mentioned, Harville, which is actually the creation of fun activities so that we can actually play. And those two things are built into one of the 4 tools that are part of our Safe Conversations programs. So we recognize those two things are absolutely true, and they're necessary to actually help transform the culture and really address relationships at work. If you think about that, it's a little funny of a term, right? Because most people are taught that relationships don't belong at work. And understandably so, the relationships that are
Get your
inappropriate.
job done. Just get it done.
Right, work.
Yeah.
And so relationship as a concept at work has kind of faded. And what our work really hopes to restore is the fact with two-way dialogue and with real interpersonal connection, you can actually build relationships at work, professional relationships at work with coworkers,
yes.
with managers, supervisors, and executives.
Yeah.
And I think when those relationships start to form, that's when that real sense of connection, connectedness starts to appear in relationships and in the workspace that really starts to transform everything.
Yes.
That's a word that needs to be also amplified, connecting. That if there's not connecting, then there is no safety, there is no play. There's not. And another thing that always hits me with sort of an irony is relationships are at work. It's just what kind are they? That are they safe or dangerous? And there are only two kinds. There's safe relationships and dangerous relationships. And those have absolute impact on the health and well-being, economic productivity of every human being. So there's some things that just make sense, that are just ordinary, just common, that are missing from even American culture, American workplaces, even American families, that are essential for human beings. Before we run out of time, however, just occurs to me, you may have a story you want to tell about your engagement with a company or with in the training program, something to make this a little more populated with some other people.
Sure. We talk to companies all the time. They're interested in improving the culture of communication and connectedness. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes they don't know where to begin. We can lay out a strategy that is fairly simple to conceive and implement. And what I'm delighted to report is that the strategies work. And organizations 3 months, 6 months, 12 months downstream come back and report to us that the lessons that they learned are still persistent and lasting. And I think that's so important. Way too often in corporate training environments, companies will come in, they'll flash their ideas in front of the audience, and then they'll disappear. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that differentiates and gives us stories like the one I just shared is that our training is also integrated with practice. And practice is such a fundamental component of this process. Or if we share an idea with an audience or a training class, we give them time to actually practice the skill. And not just practice the skill and then forget about it, but practice the skill and then digest it. Mm-hmm. And we might space our exposure over time, perhaps 2-3 weeks in between each session. So actually the attendees can take the skills and go home and apply them in their personal life, apply them a few days throughout in their professional life, and get back together and really try to make those new routines authentic and organic to them. Mm-hmm. And so those are the kind of things that we do that are just a little bit different. We train, we practice, and we measure the effects. We actually have a proprietary assessment that can take an organization and measure.
So you train, you practice, and you measure.
That's right.
And
we train, practice, and measure. Mm-hmm. And this assessment can help an organization actually quantitatively measure the level of connectedness in their organization, both on the front end and the back end.
Oh.
So let me see if I'm getting this. And if I'm getting this, I'd like you to elaborate that. We have a measure.
Yeah.
Safe Conversations has a measure for a company. Would you go ahead and elaborate on that a little bit more? It's like just not a sort of, we'll throw stuff in the water and it's going to hopefully change. You're saying we have a measurement device.
Absolutely.
Okay. What is that?
Any organization that is considering making an investment in time, and certainly the resources to bring a program like ours in, has to evaluate, is it worth the time, money, and is there return on investment?
Yeah.
That's reasonable to assume.
Always.
We have a proprietary assessment tool that measures quantitatively the level of connectedness between employees. Quantitatively.
Not qualitatively only.
That's right.
Quantitative.
That's right. It's a numeric
scale,
which we can process and analyze.
Wow.
We measure that on the front end of our exposure, and then following the exposure at the tail end, we measure again. And you can actually see real lift and effect from the ideas and the practices and the skills that we've shared with an organization. The tool is so interesting, powerful, there's actually a patent pending right now on the work within the net connected score.
Ah. So that companies can predict that if they bring a dialogue into their companies, it sounds like they can anticipate something changing positively in the bottom line of the company.
It is predictable, and some specific things like the level of engagement, the level of profitability, and the level of retention can all be linked to the actual ROI and the quantitative measures that we pull out of the net connected score.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Harville, you mentioned earlier about the parts of the brain, the lower brain or system one thinking, depending on what you read. That reactive brain first hops into response anytime we come into contact with conversation or thoughts or ideas. And that immediate reactive response first checks to sense safety. And if safety is not present, that lower brain reacts and responds to try to preserve the body and try to find safety first. That's why psychological safety is such a vital component to safe conversations and building psychological safety. Because only after people in relationships or at work sense a degree of safety, then they can trigger that upper brain thinking, that system two thinking that allows all the positive neurotransmitters to release, where they actually become curious and empathic and actually more balanced in their thinking and their processing.
Yeah. It's a relaxing energy for you. Listen, just listen. And that's part of what dialogue is. You mirror someone back, say, now, did I get that? And is there more about that? And he feels better, but I feel better.
Yeah, it sort of sounds like you get a better brain if you engage in dialogue.
Dopamine, acetylcholine, norepinephrine, serotonin, as opposed to adrenaline or cortisol. It's toxic.
Sounds good.
So what's for the future? Where are you going with the training program, with the Institute, and fill us in on what's happening tomorrow?
The future for us at Quantum Connections is we're still boldly advancing safe conversations in two audiences. Certainly in the general audience, for couples, for faith groups, for any organization that wants to adopt safe conversations. You can find us on Quantum Connections and actually become trained in safe conversations and become a local leader of these techniques to teach workshops or to teach your organization. But we're also actively promoting at Quantum Connections the reach and the growth of dialogue in the business domain so that corporate organizations can adopt Quantum Connections training programs and integrate dialogue more broadly in their cultures and in their organizations. And by doing so, actively improve the job satisfaction, the employee wellness, and the mission efficiency of their talent force. So fewer people become disenchanted and actually leave their company, which, as you know, is inordinately expensive to address. If a general audience, someone is interested in that population, or someone is interested in us on the business side, they can both find us on quantumconnections.com, and in the ribbon up top, click on Contact Us, and they can actually hear from any one of us on the team, and they can learn more.
And so how will the training go? If they click on that, what happens?
Well, depending on their appetite, their time frames, and how ambitious they want to be in terms of implementing safe conversations, we have both a 1-day program and a 6-session program. So they can get introduced to one of our workspace programs in a single day. It's an introduction. It's a very basic adoption of some of our most central tenets. But for those organizations that are serious about actually spreading dialogue throughout and really improving their culture in short order, they can actually pursue a 6-session program. Those 6 sessions are spaced every 2 weeks. So in the space of roughly 3 months, they can go through a full 6-session program and be fully immersed in the skills and the behaviors of safe conversations.
When this was first, you do not know this, but someone said to me that our corporation should be our number one consumer, because when the corporation learns it, when you learn it at work, you take it home to your families.
Very true, right? And a lot of people who get exposed to something at work take it home and over the dinner table want to share it with people that are near and dear to their heart if it was valuable for them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it happens in the opposite direction. Sometimes a personal relationship gets exposed to safe conversations and they want to migrate it to work. So it's interesting. It operates in both directions sometimes.
So anything you'd like to say to our audience on your exit from this conversation?
It's been a real privilege to get a chance to speak to the two people who introduced safe conversations and dialogue in its modern form to the world. I've loved this time. I love the conversation, and I hope we get a chance to continue our dialogue so that I can continue to keep learning these powerful life lessons.
Well, we are honored to have you
Yes.
here today, and we're also honored to have you as our head guy at the Training Institute to see what the future is going to be about safe conversations, dialogue in the world, because I know that you and I have talked, and Helen has talked, that we have a pretty big new label for we're applying to all of civilization, that we move toward a relational civilization, where the reality that relationship is really everything, it's everywhere. The quality of the relationship determines the quality of your life, and that we're wanting to really move toward a relational civilization. And it's an honor to have you being with us, being the creator of the curriculums and the direction and running the organization as we move down that path. So I hope we'll have another conversation here in the future and take something specific and elaborate it for our audience. Thank you very much for coming.
That sounds great. The privilege is all mine.
We'll see you down the path.
Sounds good.
Thank you.